My name is Cory Lalonde. I'm a captain with LSU Police Department. I've been with LSU since 2001. I was in Lafayette. I worked as a police officer in Lafayette for 7 years prior to that. So a little over 20 years total. First one I'm going to have is this is just some general safety tips. It's just what we call common sense,
Right.
but it's something that we don't necessarily think of every single day. We're going to talk about some more specifics other than just this, but that's just for you to reference later on your own. What we did last time when I did this presentation for last time, it's kind of informal, so if you have questions as we go along, I'd like to try to, especially when we're dealing with this type of stuff, because I'm not extremely familiar with everything that y'all do as far as going to homes and things of that nature. So I have a lot of talking points that I'm going to touch on, and it seemed to work very well the last time. But in addition to that, if y'all have any issues that you see or questions as we're going along, please feel free to do so, to ask those, and we'll address those accordingly. And again, some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about are suggestions, and I think it's just some good basics that you can follow. But the input that y'all give me can also assist in the process of coming up with strategies to deal with these different types of situations that you may come across. Okay. Let me start this off. What type of things are y'all going to be going and doing in the homes particularly?
Just taking like height, weight, 20 minutes.
Okay. And how often are y'all doing it? Do you know exactly about how often y'all will be doing them, or is it going to be certain times of year, or just certain programs? Is it going to be kind of hit or miss, or is it going to be on a regular basis?
Certain programs. As of right now, I think they're trying to get more of it though.
Okay. One of the first things I like to tell everybody, and regardless of the situation, whether you're just leaving here at night or going to your car, or if you're going into a home, I'm assuming that the majority of y'all are going to be I'm assuming y'all are not going homes by yourself, correct? When you're doing this, at least two people, I would assume.
Yes, it's going to be at least two of them. And let me tell you who I am.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sharon A. Bear, and I'm the Associate Director of
Okay.
Human Resources here. And I'm just sitting in just to get general information,
Yeah.
so that we can make sure that everything from an HR standpoint is being covered. They told me you did an awesome job last time, so I told them, I said, hey, I want to come and see it for myself.
Well, they might have been bragging a little too much. I hope they didn't set the bar too high.
I don't think they did. You met our needs. So that's good.
But one of the things that we try to teach everybody, whether they're on campus, like I said, whether you're leaving here late at night, even if you're coming in early in the morning, whatever the case may be, arriving at your home late, always be aware of your surroundings. It's just always good practice to understand what the potential risks are going to be. The majority of the crimes that we see on campus, the majority of the crimes that we see that happen throughout Baton Rouge, talking to Baton Rouge Police Department, and most of the police departments I think across the country would agree that the majority of crimes that happen are crimes of opportunity. And there are very few crimes that are actually where somebody's picking somebody out, observing them targeting them for a long period of time, things of that nature. That does happen from time to time, but just being aware of your surroundings, being aware of who's around you, what's around you, looking to see if things are out of place, something that just doesn't fit. What we tell people, the theme of this is one of our awareness programs is see something, say something. What is suspicious activity? What we tell people all the time, the best definition of suspicious activity is if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. If it's that thing that gives you that gut feeling that something may be wrong, or it makes those little hairs on the back of your neck stand up, pay attention to that. That's red flags. Does it mean that something's going to happen? Does it mean that something's out of place? Not necessarily every time, but that's a good warning sign. That's a good way to heighten your awareness and be aware of your surroundings. Look for things that are out of place. So and the second thing is, don't be afraid to report suspicious activity. What we tell people on main campus all the time is we would much rather have someone report something 10 times and it end up being nothing than to miss the one instance where we could have prevented something from happening. So that's us, Baton Rouge Police, any other law enforcement agency. we respond based on what the community is, the information the community is giving us. So don't be afraid to report things. Let us know about it. That's what our job is to come out. We will investigate. If it's nothing, it's no harm, no foul. But at least we've taken that precaution and tried to prevent something from happening. Especially when you're going into these homes. And I don't mean to stereotype it, but I'm assuming that some of the areas that you're going to be going in, I'm sure it's a mixture, but some of the areas you're going to be going in are probably not the best socioeconomic areas. And even though it's not necessarily that type of neighborhood, it could be a higher upscale. It could be a neighborhood like Kenilworth right here, which is traditionally an older, but it's a fairly nice subdivision. You know, nowadays you never know. Be aware of suspicious or noxious odors. You know, things like meth labs. Those are, you never know what these people are up to. Again, you can't necessarily stereotype or pigeonhole a particular type of person with these types of activities. And these are some things that you may possibly come across. Probably won't ever come across it, and hopefully not. But worst case scenario, you may have something like that. You know, nowadays we see terrorist activities happening all over the place. We never know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. Just like an active shooter situation, we don't know when or where these things are going to happen. We work hard to prevent them and mitigate the circumstances, but we just never know. Suspicious noxious odors, that could be signs of some kind of drug activity going on. That could be signs of some kind of possible terrorist activity. You never know. Somebody could just have a bad sewage system. It could be something as simple as that. But again, if it's something that sticks in your gut and makes you wary and increases your awareness of those surroundings, don't be afraid to report those types of things. Also, when you're going into these homes, again, you never know. You never judge a book by its cover, like we said before. If you go into a home and you're dealing with particular individuals, especially if it's the first or maybe only the second time you've dealt with these particular people, you know, if they seem extraordinarily nervous, extraordinarily agitated, anything like that, again, those are warning signs that you need to pay attention to. You know, again, it may be just something physiological that is wrong with that person. They could just have some kind of nervous tics or anxiety of having someone come into their home. Those types of things can happen, but again, you know, and let me preface this and kind of step back. All of this stuff that we're going to talk about throughout the whole time, not any one particular one of these things means that something's going to happen. You have to look at the totality of the circumstances. You know, one red flag may not mean anything. 2 or 3 red flags, now it's getting a little more touch and go, so to speak. So again, you just need to be aware of this. Also, be aware of people trying to avoid eye contact with you. You know, that can be, again, that may be just something, a personality quirk with that person. But then again, if that's one red flag that goes up with another one, you know, again, the totality of circumstances. These are some of the things that maybe, you know, again, heighten your awareness of the situation. Individuals quickly departing the area when seen or approached. You know, if you're coming into a neighborhood and there's a lot of people hanging out and all of a sudden they just start scattering, not all the time, but that in law enforcement, that's kind of indicative of possible drug activity. You know, they see strange cars, they don't know, this is a car they don't know, they may think it's an undercover police officer, they may mistake it like that, especially if it's a marked unit in the area. If you happen to be pulling in and see a marked unit in the area and you see stuff like that happening, again, it's not saying that that's what's going on, it's just some of those warning signs that you do need to be aware of. Individuals overdressed for the type of weather. It's May 19th right now and it's 84 degrees. You know, you're getting out of your car in a particular house and not just the individuals at the house, but somebody walking down the street approaching you wearing a trench coat or heavy coats or, you know, real baggy jeans where it's just out of place for the weather. That could be indicative of them hiding some type of weapon. That could be, you know, any of those types of things. So those are some of the, again, that's another thing that you need to just kind of be careful of. Again, Carry only the money, and I'm not gonna say just money, valuables. Carry only what you need to have with you as far as valuables, whether it be money, jewelry, equipment, laptops, tablets, cell phones. One of the biggest things we see stolen on a daily basis on campus is electronics, phones, tablets, laptops. Those things are very easy for them to move on the street, so it makes a very hot commodity item for those with bad intentions to look for. So, you know, obviously you're probably going to have to bring some of that type of stuff with you for the work that you're doing, laptops and things of that nature, but, you know, limit, if you don't need it, don't bring it with you. Also, don't leave that type of stuff visible like in the front seat of your vehicle or in the back seat of your vehicle. If you don't need to take it with you, don't take it with you. If you do have to take it with you and you're not necessarily going to take it inside, secure it in the trunk, secure it out of sight. Again, most of the crimes we see are crimes of opportunity. I know on campus the majority of the car burglaries we have are crimes of opportunity. It's people that leave things on their seat or leave their vehicles unsecured. The majority of the time when we do catch people that are breaking into cars or attempting to break into cars, it's not forced entry situations. They're going around pulling on door handles. They're looking for something that's open and they're going to grab what they can. A GPS on the dash is a bright light to those people that want to steal something. They're going to grab what they can and move on. A vehicle that's locked, they'll move on and look for a vehicle that's unlocked. You know, if it is something that they absolutely really want, that they may do forced entry, may break a window or something of that nature to get into the vehicle. But again, we don't want to advertise those things. We want to limit the opportunities, therefore you limit the risks of becoming a victim of those types of situations. If you think someone is following you, you know, and that's always possible, but say you're walking down the street and you think someone's following you. You have to park a distance away and walk to the residence, say it's an apartment complex or something of that nature. You think somebody's following you, you know, do things to try to determine if they are following you. In other words, if you're walking on the left side of the street and you think somebody's following you, casually cross the street and see what happens. You know, don't make it too obvious, but at the same time you want to look at that stuff. And again, if you're ever in doubt, call 911, call the police department. You know, obviously, I'm sure you're going to be going throughout the Baton Rouge area, so you may be going to Livingston Parish, you may be going to Ascension Parish, you may be Baton Rouge in the parish, in the city limits. If you're on campus, you contact us. You know, have those, know them, you know, it might be a good idea to have a list of those agencies in those areas that you're going to be going into. A list of their phone numbers already pre-programmed, or have it on hand where you can do that. But obviously, in an emergency situation, you can always call 911.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. When you say like you have a local Baton Rouge number and you have 911, does it go to where your cell phone originated from? Okay.
Yes. If you're in East Baton Rouge Parish and you dial 911, it's going to go to East Baton Rouge Parish 911 Center. If you're in Livingston Parish, it's going to go to Livingston Parish 911. It's based off of that, your geographic location. Typically. I have heard a few instances of where you may be close to a parish line or something like that.
Right.
Say like you're on I-12 leaving East Baton Rouge Parish, and you may dial and you may be just inside Livingston and still hit EBR. But they're pretty good about identifying that, and they'll transfer you to whoever it needs to be.
Okay.
But that's just some of the things you need to be under. You know, maybe have those numbers pre-programmed in your phone under a certain heading, or however you want to do it, where you have those numbers. Because there may be situations where it's not necessarily an emergency, but you want to contact somebody to notify them. So you have that information there, those numbers. Obviously, again, if all else fails, call 911. Okay. Try to park in well-lit areas with good visibility and close to walkways, stores, and a lot of people. You know, try not to park in isolated areas. I don't know. I don't remember from last time. Are most of these visits going to be taking place, say, in daylight time, or is this going to be happening in the evenings?
No evenings. It's pretty
no
much
evenings.
daytime.
Okay. But if you know, and even in daytime, it's still good to not look for those not necessarily well lit areas, obviously in the daytime, but those isolated areas. Try to park where there's a lot of visibility. You know, things of that nature. Another thing is, you know, make eye contact with people. while you're approaching it. You know, try to make eye contact with them. A lot of times, if you see somebody that's approaching you and you kind of look up at them and they start to look away but they're still approaching you, again, that's a sign. That's what we were talking about, not necessarily just in the homes, but when you're approaching these homes or you're parking in certain areas and to access these people that you're visiting. When leaving, it's a good idea, again, whether you're going to these home visits, whether you're leaving here in the evening times, have your keys in your hand ready. Don't, you may be carrying a lot of stuff, you may be carrying a lot of bags, a lot of equipment, a lot of notes, things of that nature, but it's always a good idea to have those keys ready and available. That way, again, you don't give a person with bad intentions that you may not know is there an opportunity to make you a victim of any type of crime, whether it be a robbery or something worse, God forbid. But having those keys ready, not taking that time to get to your vehicle, start fumbling through your purse, your pocket, something like that to find your keys, that's increasing those opportunities if somebody does want to do something harmful to you. So it's always a good idea. Carry that key in your hand. That way, as soon as you get to the vehicle, you can unlock it, put your stuff in, and get ready. You can get ready to move on to wherever you're going. You don't hear about it as much. Back when I was growing up in high school and in high school back in the 80s, you heard about a lot of things about perpetrators hiding in the backs of people's vehicles in the back seats. Okay, you don't hear about it that much, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. Okay, so always be aware of that as well too. When you're approaching your vehicle, take a glance, get into the habit of looking into your back seat as you're getting into your vehicle. Okay. Again, it's just an ounce of prevention goes a long way to preventing things like this. So just getting those types of habits. Again, with the keys, it's a habitual thing. I think they say typically habits, you form them over a 3-week period. If you do them consistently for a 3-week period on a daily basis, they will generally become habits. You won't even have to think about it anymore. But, these types of things can go a long way to assist you. Always lock your vehicle, no matter how long you're going to be gone. My wife laughs at me all the time. I get out of the car to go into the convenience store, and sometimes she's still sitting in the passenger seat, and I'll lock it out of habit. I'll lock her in the vehicle as I'm going into the store while she's sitting there waiting for me, and she laughs at me, but it's just a habit. Everywhere I go, I'll lock my vehicle. If I get out, for just a few minutes, I'll lock my vehicle. Okay? If, worst case scenario, if you have somebody that is trying to get into your vehicle with you, do everything you can to prevent them from getting into your vehicle. That vehicle is your space. That vehicle is a safe zone. If you can get into that vehicle and close those doors and lock those doors, now you have a safe space. And that safe space is now movable too, so you can get out of the area quick. So worst case scenario, try not and do everything you can not to let somebody get into your vehicle. Be aware of these people that are approaching you. You may have people approach you. We have it happen on campus from time to time. People walk up and say, hey, look, my car broke down. I don't have the battery on my phone died. Can I borrow your phone? I need to make a call to get somebody to come pick me up. And sure, no problem. Give them the phone and they take off with it. That happens frequently. Okay? It's human nature to want to help people out and be a good citizen and help people. But again, understand that you're taking a risk when you do those things. So be aware of people that are approaching you with those types of things. Be aware of people that are approaching you begging for money. We had an incident on campus several weeks ago, approximately a month and a half ago. They had an individual not affiliated with the university came onto the edge of campus, just onto campus, as well as just off of campus, and approached several people begging for money. Hey, I'm down on my luck, I need a few dollars, blah, blah, blah. The people told him no, and it escalated to the point where he actually pulled a knife on this one woman on campus. She was able to get away from him. This is like at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're not talking about 9 o'clock at night. This is like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, we got the information very quickly from that person and from witnesses that were in the area. We got in a short foot pursuit with him and caught him within 10 minutes of the incident, but he had committed 2 similar acts just off of campus, just north of campus. So, these people that are coming and asking for money and that type of stuff, while they may really be down on their luck and stuff like that, I'm not saying not to help these people. I'm not saying not to be charitable. I'm not saying not to do that. Understand that there is always a risk involved with it, and just be aware of those warning signs. you know, avoid those types of situations if you can. It sounds really, I am a Christian, and it sounds really hard to be able to do that to people, but, you know, is it worth putting yourself at risk? Sorry. Oh, if, again, worst case scenario, if somebody does come up to rob you, whether it's a strong arm robbery, they just come up and try to grab your purse or your bag from you, whether they approach you with a weapon, whether they imply they have a weapon, if all they want is your property, give it to them, okay? It's not worth you risking injury to yourself or worse for the property. Property can be replaced, okay? Your life can't. So don't be afraid just to give it to them. Now, if it is a situation where you have that instinct and you feel that they are actually threatening you, that they may do harm to you, by all means, do what you have to do to defend yourself, okay? But if you can ascertain that all they want is your property, give it to them. Don't try to resist them. We've seen incidents that happen, and granted it's college students, and usually there's alcohol involved, but in Tigerland area, just off of campus, we've seen it time and time again. You know, somebody tries to rob somebody, they try to resist, or somebody tries to be the quote-unquote hero, and they end up getting shot, they end up getting stabbed, they end up getting hurt in the process. You know, and unfortunately, the situations that I've seen, the majority of those, they ended up being okay in the long run, but it's a long recovery period, it's a long process, it's not something you want to put yourself into. So, you know, if you feel like your person is in danger, or, you know, danger of receiving it, do what you have to do to defend yourself. Something I didn't mention in the last class that I am going to mention to y'all, because I'm just actually thinking about it as I was talking about that. You know, look into some kind of self-defense classes for your personnel. I can tell you right now, I know Baton Rouge City does specific classes, I forgot what they call it, but I know on campus we do at least one class a semester of the RAD class. It's Rape Aggression Defense. But it can, you know, it's called Rape Aggression Defense, but it can be used in a variety of situations. It is the class we teach, the curriculum, it is for females only. The only males that are allowed inside the class are some of the male instructors who, all but one that we have right now, are police officers. And the one that isn't used to be a police officer years ago, and that's why he still does it as a civilian now. But we do at least one class a semester. It's sponsored. We put it on the LSU Police Department, as well as we partner with the Student Health Center on campus. The Office of Health Promotions, Miss Kathy Saychuk, I don't know if y'all are familiar with her or not, but Miss Kathy is an instructor, and she also helps us put this on. They do at least one a semester. You know, you can look at their website, you can look at the LSU Police Department Facebook page. We try to promote it as soon as they put the dates out for the semester, they schedule it and put it out. Another option is, we do one per semester. We do additional classes. So say as a group, if y'all wanted a class, they try to limit it to anywhere from 15 to 20 at the most, because it gets kind of unmanageable after that. But there's always the possibility of doing multiple classes. If y'all want to look at putting some of your personnel through, there is a small fee. It's like 25, for students it's 25, for non-students it's 45. But the good thing about that is, and all that does is pay for the space if we have to rent the space or lease the space or buy the space, so to speak, to put on the class, and the printed materials. That's all it is just to cover costs. But we have two instructors and 3 new instructors that are police officers that just went through the training. I know they're very eager to teach classes, so by all means, if that's something y'all are possibly interested in the future, let me know. We can arrange that. It's a 12-hour class. It's typically taught on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, broken up over those days. The Friday, it's a little bit of classroom, a lot of practical teaching techniques and moves and strikes and things you can do to defend yourself. And it all wraps up on the Sunday, where the instructors put on the full padded bodysuits and you get to actually try out everything that you've learned on them to finish up the class. So I highly recommend that y'all looking into that or considering that as a possibility. Again, it's just something, it's real easy, common sense. It's not going to make you a black belt in martial arts. It's not going to make you a self-defense expert, but it's just some real good techniques The good thing about that as well is that it is a lifetime membership to the RAD program. So say you go through it next month and you see a class coming up next year and you kind of want to refresh your skills a little bit because, you know, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you want to refresh your skills and you see a class, you can attend that class free of charge. You never have to pay again, and that's what we mean by the lifetime membership. So think about that and let us know if y'all are interested. Try not to leave any kind of ID tags, address information, or anything like that on your key rings, things like that. Yeah, it sounds like it's a real great idea to, that way you can find your keys. If you lose them, somebody can return them to you, but at the same time, you're also putting information out there that some people you may not want to have. So be very, very leery of that. You know, again, you know, and you never know what type of environment you're going into in some of these homes. So just be real careful about, you know, leaving stuff with personal information of that nature out there. Some of the things that we do recommend, and I recommended this, and this is an area where we're going to get more into a discussion of how y'all do things and how would y'all want to proceed with things. But, you know, obviously you're going to be going in two-man teams, you know, two-person teams, I should say. You know, develop some kind of check-in procedures when y'all are doing these. In other words, have a central person or a central phone number where somebody is monitoring that while these home visits are going on. I don't know if y'all only do them on certain days of the week. I don't know if y'all do them only certain hours of the day. I'm not sure exactly how y'all have that set up. But if you could arrange them that way, that would be great, because that's less time that you have to leave somebody at a central location, a central phone, and it could be simple as a notepad of, and you call in and you say, hey, this is Cory, and I'm with Fred, and we're leaving right now, we're going to this address. Okay, so we're on our way now. When you pull up there, call them again. Hey, we're here. We are pulling up at the address, you know, we're getting ready to do this. When you leave, call them and say, okay, hey, we're done at this location, we're going to this location, or we're returning to Pennington, or we're returning wherever we're going at that point. You know, we don't have any more appointments today. And then once you get here, let them know, especially if you're coming here, say, you know, you're coming here, I'm dropping Fred off to his car here, and we're done for the day. You know, let them know, hey, we're here. And that person maintain that coverage on that phone until all the teams have finished checking in for the day. It's just accountability. Again, worst case scenario, if something would happen, it's just a good starting point for law enforcement and for you to know, in a worst case scenario, this is the last place they were known, and it's only been 20 minutes since that last check-in. You know, one of the things they teach us in law enforcement about crime scenes, whenever you have a crime, think of a drop of water hitting a very calm body of water. What happens? You see those rings, and those rings expand. And when you have situations like this, it's not easy to talk about, it's not easy to think about, but it's the truth. When you have these types of incidents, those crime scenes, the longer it goes, the wider those rings are. Okay? So the sooner that we know about it, the sooner and the tighter window, so to speak, that you have, an area that you have where this person could be, is much easier to find that person or locate that person and ensure their safety. So look at stuff like that. You know, let them know what type of, you know, not only letting them know, hey, this is Cory and Fred, and we're going to this address. We're in Fred's vehicle. It's a 2010 Chevy Traverse, red in color. This is the license plate number. Again, worst case scenario, they lose contact with you and they have to contact law enforcement. How valuable would that information be, Scott, to law enforcement to know this is the type of vehicle we're looking for, the license plate, okay, color, okay.
That's a good idea. I don't know if they thought
I don't
about
know,
the
yeah.
vehicle
I
information.
don't
We'll
think
have to
so.
double check.
Yeah, I know I mentioned it last
You
time
did,
in the last
okay,
class, but
good.
I don't know. I didn't follow up with them. I don't know
That's
what kind of
okay.
things they've looked at, but
That's good.
these are just all possibilities. These are all suggestions that I came up with that I think would work well. Cell phone information, okay. Make sure that they have that person, whoever's that one central phone bank that's tracking everybody, so to speak, has the phone numbers of each individual. Nowadays, just about every phone has GPS in it. Again, worst case scenario, they can't get in touch with you. We can look up, we can track phones, okay? We have people that lose their phones or get their phones stolen. Like I was talking about, people come up, borrow the phone, and they take off with it. We've used Find My iPhone, I don't know how many times with our investigators within 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and we've been able to track that phone to an address, end up making apprehensions in the incident as well as recovering the phone. Those types of things come in very, very handy. I have a 19-year-old stepdaughter that is leaving tomorrow. We surprised her and well, we didn't buy her a car, but we gave her our old car because we bought a new one. So she's driving it back to Colorado to go to school this summer. And, you know, my wife is there, she's going to be on pins and needles, you know, a 20-year-old driving across country for the first time, but she's going to be on pins and needles, but she has an iPhone. I know right now my wife is going to be using the iPad, is going to be tracking that thing the entire way until she gets there, okay? But you can do that with these types of things. But that's why it's important to have those cell phone information. And even in certain situations, depending on the circumstances and depending on who the provider is, in missing persons cases, a lot of times they end up being okay. But we have been able to contact those phone providers as law enforcement and say, look, this is the situation we have. What do you need? Can you tell us where this phone is? Is it active? Is it on? But we need those numbers as well. So again, that's another good resource to have that information collected. Again, we're looking at worst case scenario, but I would much rather prepare for the worst and not need it than not have it when we do need it. Again, have that central person, have that central number that somebody can call, and they're keeping track and they're logging all this information. You know, who is it that's calling in, where they're going, when they're going, how long. Again, for each location and destination, let them know when you arrived, let them know when you depart, let them know when you're going, what the next location is. Things of that nature. Also, as a group, try to identify, okay, I know it's probably going to vary depending on what kind of studies y'all are evaluating and how much work you actually have to do in those homes on those particular programs. But for each one of those programs, and it seems kind of tedious, but it's a good idea, try to establish an average amount of time that's going to take to do this stuff in the home. So in other words, that person knows this is they're doing this type of study, they're doing this type of program, they should be in the home for say 15 minutes. If they go 15, 20 minutes and they have not heard from you, that person can contact you by cell phone and say, hey, are is everything okay? Yeah, we kind of got tied up, something else came up, we're in the process of doing this, but we're good, okay? But come up with those average times. We do it as law enforcement, that's the best thing I can keep relating to is the way we do some of our things with our patrol officers. But the computer dispatching that our dispatcher uses, if somebody's out on a traffic stop and they log in, our dispatcher logs in, this officer's on a traffic stop at this location with this license plate, and after a certain amount of time, 5 to 10 minutes, the computer program prompts the dispatcher with a little alert. Hey, is this officer okay? And they'll call them if they haven't heard back from them, they haven't cleared the traffic stop by that point, they'll call them and say, hey, are you code 4? For us, that's okay. Are you okay? Is everything good? 10-4, everything's good. So we even use that as law enforcement. I mean, so try to develop some protocols like that. Those are some things that, again, I can't give you specifics. I don't know the exact type of stuff that y'all are doing, and it's going to vary from study to study and different types of things y'all are doing in the home. But try to come up with those times for particular things, or even come up with a protocol where you don't have established times, but when you check in and say, hey, I'm at this location, we should be done in about 20 minutes. Give them a time frame that they can maybe make contact with you if you go overdue, so to speak, that they can contact you and check with you. Again, a lot of these things, one of the other things that we covered, and I'm going to open up for some questions and some more open discussion at this point, but one of the things I do want to point out that we did discuss last time was come up with some kind of protocol, whether it's between the team or whether it's between all of the teams, some kind of a code or signal system. In other words, how many times have you seen or been in a situation where more than one person is in a situation and something kind of starts to go hinky or bad or suspicious, and one person notices it but the other doesn't. You know? And I'm assuming in some of these things, I'm assuming probably one of the persons in the team is probably going to be more engaged with the individual while the other one's maybe kind of sitting back and assisting and has maybe more time to observe the surroundings and seeing things that are going on. Develop some kind of a code word, develop some kind of a signal, you know, something that you wouldn't use in your normal conversations doing these things, where you can kind of, you know, if I see something that's kind of gets those red flags up and is making me really, really nervous, maybe the other person is not noticing it. But if we have that kind of a system set up where we can give them kind of a code word or a signal, then now they're on the same page with us, okay? And now they know what we know, that, hey, something's not right. They may not know exactly what it is because you obviously don't want to bring that out right in front of the person that you're suspicious of. But some kind of a system like that where you can work with each other, you can read off each other and work off each other and realize when something is getting a little out of whack or something just isn't right, that maybe, hey, we need to back out of this, you know. I know one of the other questions they asked about when we did this is, how would you suggest backing out of that type of situation? Because obviously, you know, you go into a house and the guy is acting really, really weird. He's really, really nervous, really, really agitated. He starts becoming, he shows signs of potential violence or severe agitation or getting very, very angry with you. How do you extract yourself from that situation without saying, hey, we're leaving because you're getting mad? Because a lot of times that can maybe escalate the situation. Come up with some kind of system. Oh, I just got a text message. Hey, look, we got to go. Look, sir, we'll come back. We'll reschedule the appointment with you. We'll come back. Something of that nature. Some way to get out of there and de-escalate the situation, but at the same time get you out of that situation. Because there's nothing. Again, law enforcement. One of the first things they teach us is on a traffic stop, when you pull over a vehicle, if something happens and you don't feel right about that, there's nothing wrong with you pulled somebody over. There's nothing wrong with throwing that car in reverse and getting the heck out of there. Okay? So say you're approaching a house and you knock on the door, and as soon as they open the door, there's only supposed to be one person in there. It's supposed to be one elderly person in the house that you're dealing with. But then you see 3 or 4 other individuals, younger individuals, having a keg party or something like that, or something that's just not going on. Somebody may be doing some kind of drug activity going on in the house that you really don't feel comfortable in there. Come up with some kind of a plan of saying, hey, look, you know what, something just came up, we're running late, we'll recontact you. We'll contact you again and reschedule an appointment. I really apologize, but we're going to have to go, and we'll get back in touch with you. Some kind of plans like that. You need to be thinking of those types of things to get yourself out of bad situations. Again, my suggestion is if you get there and your antenna are really going off about this is a bad situation, get out of there. Don't hesitate to get out of there. Reschedule it. It may be a situation where maybe you have to even cut them from the program because it's something that's just really, you don't want your people going into. So just think about those types of things. At this point, I'm going to ask y'all, is there anything, I know we covered a lot of stuff, please don't hesitate to ask questions. Other types of scenarios that maybe you've seen in the past that you want suggestions on, scenarios you've thought about that could possibly happen, I'm more than happy. I'm not a 100% complete expert, and I don't know everything, but I can offer suggestions and we can work through it as a group as well. But do y'all have anything y'all can think of? But again, I can't emphasize enough that trust your gut feelings, trust your gut instincts. I think the way humans are created, that's a natural response. You hear about the fight or flight in people's physiology and things of that nature. It's the same thing. That's exactly what it is. It's those instincts. It's those, whether you want to call it ESP, whether you want to call it premonitions, whatever you want to call it, whether you just want to call it instincts, pay attention to those. They're there for a reason. Doesn't mean something's going to happen. You may decide, you may give it a little more time and see that maybe it wasn't what you thought it was, and maybe it's okay. But at the same time, don't discount those out, don't throw those out the window and completely discount them, because, you know, studies have shown, and we've seen it, law enforcement and talking to victims over the years, you know, a lot of times there's warning signs that they ignore. But are y'all sure y'all don't have any other questions?
Have any of y'all conducted visits or no, not yet?
Not yet.
So y'all haven't done any yet at all?
She's extremely new, I'm pretty new.
Okay.
I mean, so I don't know that.
Now, let me ask this, are y'all gonna be going in with, I'm assuming y'all are going in with people, your partner, your teammate, with people that have done these before, or
Yes.
a little more experienced, they're not gonna,
Yes,
you know, it's
they're
not gonna
not
be two
gonna
brand
be
new
going
people
out by
going together, right?
No,
Okay.
it's not supposed to occur.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
And, you know, and I hope I didn't, you know, I hope I didn't scare y'all with a
Oh,
lot of
no,
this
I
stuff. I
think
mean,
it's
it's just,
really
you know, I don't
practical
want you to
information.
think that, oh, the world's Chicken Little, the sky is falling and all of this type of stuff, but, you know, our motto is prepare for the worst. Anything else is better. You know, you have to be prepared for the worst case scenario. You know, and it's a situation where 99.999% of the visits that you're gonna do are probably gonna go perfectly fine.
And like you said, when you first started, I think this is just practical information that you can use on a day-to-day basis.
It is. It
Being
is.
aware.
Not just in these
Not
situations.
just in going on home visits.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And when they laugh at people, I know, for looking at all the shows, the law and all, but I watched a show last night, and The Following, and it's one of, you know, one of these kind of gruesome kind of
Don't
shows.
tell me what happened, because I haven't
I'm
seen the
not gonna
finale
tell you
yet.
what
I'll watch
happened.
it, it's on my DVR.
But you talked about using a code or a signal. And of course, you know, they're police officers, agents together. And he did a signal to someone who had been captured. And I said to my daughter who was looking, I said, "Did you see that?" And she said, "Yeah, I saw that." Well, of course, we didn't know what it meant, but they had worked it out. If we ever see this signal, this is what you do. And then after a few minutes. But those little simple things like that do
Absolutely.
work. Because they got
Absolutely.
them out of a situation last night. And I was wondering how in the world were they going to get out of it. But
And I can tell you from doing law enforcement for 20 years, again, working with the same people day in, day out on a shift,
Yes.
you learn, you get to know people's habits, you get to know the inflections in their voice, you
Voices.
understand what they're doing and why they're doing it before they even realize what they're doing.
yes.
Because
Because I know in our HR office, we've discussed, like you talked about, active shooter type things. We've gone through that, and we've discussed codes among ourselves. If you ever hear me say this, you know what to do.
Absolutely.
And I think just doing it on a regular basis, like I said, then you get to know each other. You know, if I'm doing certain things, that's way out of the norm for
You know,
me.
and-
Something's not right.
And the simplest way is to come up with some kind of a code word. You know, I don't know how many of these visits y'all are going to be doing. I don't know how often you'll be doing it with the exact same person that you have. But I'm sure Scott can attest to this from all the years he's been involved in security and law enforcement, that, you know, a lot of times all it takes, when you know somebody, all it takes is the change in the inflection of their voice, and I know that something's not right. You know, I'm on a traffic stop, or I hear somebody on a traffic stop, and I hear them say, "Hey, can I have another unit at this location?" As opposed to, "Can I have another unit at this location?" There's two big different things. It's like, the first one is, "Yeah, something's not right. Just to be sure, hey, why don't one of y'all come all the way?" The other one is, "Something's definitely not right. I need somebody here now." You know, you learn those types of non-verbal, well, I mean, in that case it is a verbal, but the inflection of it, it's not the words so much, it's not what they're saying, it's how they're saying it, it's how they're acting, those types of things. And you're going to develop those types of things with people, but at the same time, that takes a little bit of knowledge, it takes a lot of experience together. That's why I suggest these types of code words, because that's a very simple way to do it. You know,
That's a good idea.
whatever you come up with as a group, whatever you come up with as an individual team member, to let them know. You know, also, it may be a good idea if you do establish some kind of a call center where these people are checking in for the home visits, to have some kind of, you may still develop some kind of signals or codes within the team, but with something that person on the phone may know, because if you say you tell them that you're going to be there for 15 minutes, and you're 25 minutes, and so this person is calling you to check, and you don't feel comfortable saying, hey, I'm in trouble,
Mhm.
you know, have some kind of standard code word, you know,
Right.
department-wide, so to speak, that that person knows, hey, they're in trouble. You know, whatever that code word may be. And again, you want to avoid, you don't want something completely outlandish to where you're going to tip off the person that you're dealing with, but at the same time, you don't want something that you're going to accidentally use in casual conversation. You know, you see in the movies all the time, you see them, well, you know, if I scratch my nose, you know, well, whatever,
Nose might start
what
itching.
always happens is they get an itch on their nose and they have to scratch their nose, and now you've got a SWAT team coming in when you had an itch on your nose, you know? So it's something that you have to find that happy medium with it, where it's not necessarily completely outlandish, but at the same time, it's not something that you're gonna accidentally trigger unintentionally. But those are things that you might wanna consider, and all those types of protocols. And by all means, don't hesitate to contact us again. You know, if y'all want some more advice in putting some of these things into place, some of these procedures, if you've put something in there and you want just our opinion on it, again, we're not the end-all be-all experts on it, but if you want an outside opinion of it, let us know. We'll be more than happy to help y'all however we can. Well, you know, that's what we're here for.
Great. I have nothing else, and they did an excellent job.
Well, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
very good information.
But y'all sure y'all don't have any other questions at this point?
I don't have any. I don't know about them. I kind of had to have this several years ago. I was a sales rep, and we had to do these kind of things, talk about these kind of things, and plan for these kind of things, because you'll be surprised sometimes what you encounter when you're doing a home visit. And it actually starts before you ever go out on a visit.
You know, and another thing, it may not be something that's necessarily, let me throw this in there too, it may not be something that's necessarily a threat to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe signs of child abuse.
Yeah.
Maybe signs of domestic or dating violence. Things of that nature, things that you may see that are just of concern. You know, so, you know, you never know what it is that you're going to be walking into. And again, that's what I was talking about, you know, if it doesn't seem right, it probably isn't. You know, again, going back to what I said at the beginning, people ask us all the time, what is suspicious activity? I could sit here and talk to you for 3 days on what suspicious activity is, and having conversations on, is this suspicious, is that suspicious, why is this suspicious, why is that suspicious? The easiest definition and the most simple definition is, if it doesn't seem right, it probably isn't. So just be aware of that. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Well, good deal.
That's great. Appreciate it.